I want to touch on a couple things and go through what is the most important issue for the city of Chicago, the vitality of our neighborhoods, and lay out, in my view, a way to approach to build and strengthen the city of Chicago, neighborhood by neighborhood, across the city of Chicago. I want to also thank Melinda for leading the talk beforehand and for being a great partner for all of us in Chatham. And Megan, Martin, Brenda, and Derek, also thank you for participating in the forum earlier. Over the years, we have spoken together on many occasions over breakfast and lunches at community meetings and planning sessions with aldermen and community leaders about our shared work to strengthen Chicago's neighborhoods. We all know, going back decades, there are neighborhoods in our city that were starved of investments. And we know where that road leads. As you've heard from me before, kids cannot be what they cannot see. If all they see on their way to school, to and from school, are empty lots, boarded up homes and storefronts, cracked streets and sidewalks, half-empty schools, they internalize those images. But if they see a business that was once boarded up but now has a help wanted sign in the window, and they see a man who owns and runs that business, they also have a different image of themselves. And so while today we are also talking about our neighborhoods and the heart of a community, make no mistake about it, we are also talking about the soul of our children. The lack of investment takes families out of neighborhoods. The lack of investment takes small, family-owned businesses out of neighborhoods. But there is another road for us as a city to travel. Other neighborhoods here on the south and west side have bucked that trend. We're in one of them here in Bronzeville. In fact, in the last couple of years, those neighborhoods have been adding residents, adding businesses, adding families, and adding jobs. The challenge and the opportunity we have as a city is to take what is working in those neighborhoods that are thriving and replicate it, to strengthen the neighborhoods across the city of Chicago. Because when a neighborhood loses residents or loses a neighborhood business that's been there for years, it tears at the fabric of that neighborhood and it tears at the fabric of our city. You may not live in that neighborhood, but it is part of our city. In the same way that Shirley noted when she welcomes me to Bronzeville, I am the mayor of the city, but Bronzeville is part of the city and its success is part of Chicago's success. Now let me be clear. I do not believe that Chicago is a tale of two cities. I understand why some people would say it. I understand why some people would think it. But I don't believe that. I think Chicago is a tale of two different investment strategies and two different choices over the decades. We are a tale of two different choices that have led to two different results. One that has led to neighborhoods that are prospering, and another where neighborhoods are shrinking. But the truth is, if we're going to succeed, we have to be one city with one future and work together to make the investments necessary. But the two different strategies, one investment and one of disinvestment, actually have led to two different results. And our challenge today, our challenge every day, is to take what works and bring it to every block and every neighborhood across the city of Chicago. Starting back in 2012 and 2013, as a city, we outlined the Neighborhood Now plan to replace decades of disinvestment and neglect with a coordinated, clear, and concerted neighborhood strategy of investment. And it's based on 5 foundations: good public schools, good public parks, good public libraries, good public safety, and good public transportation. Those are the building blocks of a thriving community and a vibrant neighborhood. They give both residents and businesses that are there the certainty to make their own investment and own decision to live there. And when you think about where you individually chose to live and raise your children. It's based on the same thing that is important for a city as it invests in that future. There are places where it has worked well here in Bronzeville, and there are places where we need to do more and the progress has been uneven because the headwinds of years of neglect and disinvestment have left stronger scars. Some neighborhoods have added jobs but lost residents. Some neighborhoods are strong by some measures but not as strong on other measures. We also have to be clear-eyed about the world we are in. We are in a period of time when Washington, D.C. has turned its back not only on the city of Chicago, but every major metropolitan center. 50 years ago, Washington was a partner with our cities. I don't think I need to tell all of you, I try to avoid the news, but you can see what's going on nationally and the approach of this administration towards urban America. And the truth is also, Springfield has largely been absent for years, and that is on a good day. That means we as a city, all of us, have to be smarter, more thoughtful, and more strategic about how we approach investing in neighborhoods. We don't have a dollar to waste. We do not have the luxury to be frivolous, because without Washington or Springfield, we are in this boat together alone. We have to ask ourselves, when you look at Chicago neighborhoods that are growing, whether here in Bronzeville, Washington Park, Woodlawn, Little Village, Uptown, what are the common threads? What is the foundation of their success where they have bucked the trends in other areas around them? Parks, schools, libraries, transit, safety. Washington Park. Alderman Pat Dowell and I were there just the other night when we opened up and cut the ribbon on the new XS tennis facility. Woodlawn, you have the new Metro Squash. Little Village, you have the big park in Little Village. In Uptown, the Parks and Tracks, Wilson Parks and Tracks area. In Bronzeville, where we sit right now, the new Ellis Park Center right here. After decades, going back to Alderman Pat Dowell, Alderman Tony Preckwinkle, Shirley Newsom, all the aldermen that have advocated a park in the Bronzeville area, it finally opened. And since it's open, and Mike Kelly can correct me, it is either the third most used park in the park facility program across the city of Chicago. This investment is an investment that makes a neighborhood not only a great place to live, but to raise a family. This is the kind of investment that makes a neighborhood strong, where you have senior citizens swimming, kids playing basketball, people from all walks of life in the neighborhood coming together in a shared space. You have to go back, this is not rocket science. Think about the choices you made as a family. I know when Amy and I were leaving the Obama White House, or rather the Clinton White House, Zach was 4, Alana was 2, and Alea likes to say she was being planned. That's all we'll say. Why did we pick that house? I can tell you the street, you always see it every night on the news, some by. It's on Hermitage because it's 4 lots down from a pocket playground. And at that age, we wanted the kids to have a playground they could just run out the house and go to. And it was not just a playground with swings and slides. It was a place where residents up and down the block all gathered, Saturday fathers with their cup of coffee, watching their kids play. And it was 2 blocks from the train. It was 6 blocks from the Sulzer Library. It had all the building blocks of what you want for a neighborhood. And that gives us a sense of certainty and stability, both for family and businesses, to build around and build upon. The good news Since we completed work on the Chicago Plays initiative last year, every child now in the city of Chicago is within a 10-minute walk of a park or playground. All 365 playgrounds were rebuilt, and still more to come. We all know that parks and playgrounds are more than amenities. They create a sense of family and community. For some Chicagoans, it's about a proximity to a park. For others, it's about being close to the L. Again, look at the neighborhoods that are growing. We mentioned the parks. Woodlawn is home to the now modernizing Cottage Grove Green Line. Washington Park, the new Garfield Green Gateway that we broke ground on the other day. Here in Bronzeville, we have the new 35th Street Red Line, which was part of the Red Line modernization dating back to 2012. In Little Village, we extended the 35th Street bus route to 31st Street, taking together with the new Pink Line. The days of Little Village being underserved when it comes to transit are over. In Uptown, we just opened the new Wilson Station. When you look at the neighborhoods that are thriving, you can also look at the success of our investments in libraries. But they all have a common theme, whether it's a park, whether it's transit. In libraries, the Chicago B branch here in Bronzeville, a new early learning center in the Little Village Library, renovations and a new citizenship corner in the Uptown Library, and not far from the new Edgewater Library. And I'm proud to say the Obama Presidential Center will be home to the newest branch of the Chicago Library and a great resource for the residents of Woodlawn, Washington Park, and South Shore. In each of these neighborhoods and the neighborhoods across the city of Chicago, you can also look at investments in our public schools. New IB, AP, and STEM, magnet schools, new fields and gyms, full-day kindergarten, which we did not have as a city, and starting this September, full-day pre-K for every child in the city of Chicago. Since 2011, we've invested more than $3 billion in capital improvements at our schools. And those are not just investments in schools, those are investments in neighborhoods. And those investments are not just a down payment. CPS, as you know, just laid out a plan for another $1 billion of investments, where we're opening up early childhood centers in neighborhoods across the city. Alderman Sawyer and I were opening up one the other day in the neighborhood. As a city, we're marshaling our resources to address decades of investments to help stabilize our neighborhoods and make them a place that can actually thrive. Investments that create the foundation of neighborhoods are great places to live, to work, and to raise a family. Taken together, they also give the private sector the confidence to invest. And in our challenging neighborhoods, if we want permanent jobs, not just one-year grants, for a Mariano's, for a Jewel, for a cafe, for a Gallery Gauchard, or a Southside Arts Center, they have to know that you have a permanent investment. That is what an Ellis Park does. That is what an XS tennis facility does. That is what a 35th Street station does. That is what a Chicago B library does. And then you have, which we can all see, I was going to say out the window, but we can't see it, you just know it, a couple blocks from here, you have a Mariano's with about 400 jobs. You have a gallery. You have another cultural institution that creates its own economic benefits. You have Sip and Savor, coffee shops. You have, think about this here in Bronzeville, not a long time ago, or a short time ago, it was a food desert. Mariano's, Shop and Loft with Walmart. At the Rosenwald is a new grocery store coming, all with jobs, foot traffic near the Rosenwald. Not only the grocery store, you have a coffee shop opening, an ice cream parlor opening. And these public investments give the private sector, just like a family, the confidence to invest. Now, I know a little earlier there was a discussion about capital. And one of the big challenges, not just us putting those resources in libraries, schools, transit, safety, and parks, But part of the turning back was not just a public disinvestment, but a private sector disinvestment, which is why the microloan, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and the Thrive Zones are so essential for these neighborhoods. Because while we're waiting for the private sector, if they come, we need to also provide capital to those family businesses so they can be actually, quote unquote, credit worthy when they're ready to grow and knock on a door of a bank. And that's what. So when you combine all this, all the transportation, all the libraries, other investments, or look at the new bridge, but take a look here, right out that door and out that window. 5 new bridges that are going up across the lakefront, taking the community, the Quads and the Bronzeville community, and making sure they have access to the beautiful lakefront that they never had before. Or the Phillips High School gym that we'll be building. Or the work we've done at Dunbar to make it the new trade school here in the city of Chicago. Is it an accident that since the trade school in Dunbar, that the Illinois Brotherhood of Electrical Workers now put their new regional headquarters here and has a partnership with Dunbar? Those are the type of investments that give, again, big and small and medium-sized businesses the confidence to also invest. At Woodlawn, after 40 some odd years of being a food desert, the investments we've made, there's a new jewel going up in Woodlawn. In Washington Park, the currency exchange is now becoming the Peaches Exchange. In Englewood, what was once a food desert is now home to Whole Foods Englewood Square. It's not just selling fruits and vegetables. Their shelves are also stocked with products made by small businesses across Chicago. That helps replace a downward spiral of public investment, public and private disinvestment, with growth and investment that reaches not just Englewood, but neighborhoods across the city of Chicago. Last year, Englewood led the city in gun violence reductions. And we have not seen the population growth there that we want to see, and we talked about in Bronzeville and Washington Park and Woodlawn and Uptown. So we're going to keep investing. In addition to the Whole Foods, the 63rd Street modernization, the new track and field at Lundblom High School, a new world-class high school that is coming to there. We sold off the headquarters for the community college downtown and moved 150 jobs to Kennedy King permanently. The new 2FM facility that's coming to Englewood that will bring 250 jobs that used to be on the north side is now going to Englewood. And also in that area, as I mentioned, is a new high school. And those workers at the 2FM, at the Kennedy King, and the expansion is in the police station is creating the type of foot traffic you need for businesses to thrive in that area. Now, I also want to be clear about one other thing, and this may not be politically correct. I know there's a lot of talk about bashing the central business district. No world-class global city has a failing central business district. It is not in our interest as a city to pit one side of the city against another, except for when it comes to the south side, west side, when it comes to basketball. But you cannot find a successful city that has a decaying economic engine. Our challenge is to make that central business district work for all parts of the city of Chicago, not some parts. And that's what happened in past years. I know it may be politically convenient to attack it, but not only have we seen decades and years of disinvestment in neighborhoods, but we've also experienced as a city when businesses leave. Try investing in after-school or summer jobs when jobs are leaving and finding the revenue and then asking all your aldermen to come up with the resources. If you have a growing, thriving business climate where companies are moving here and jobs are here, it's not, you don't want to attack that. You don't want to run that down. But what you want to do, which is what we're doing in the city of Chicago, how does it work for everybody? How do you make sure that what used to be called the Loop and is now the Central Business District becomes an economic engine and job creator for all parts of the city of Chicago? So when McDonald's moves in, they're the first in the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. They put $3.2 million, and 30 businesses across the city of Chicago get about $100,000 to pay down their dream and expand, create a second operation, a new franchise. Andre, you were the first to clap because you were the recipient of one of those grants. And that is a thank you. We've already done, but the addition to that, it's not just the money, and I know that's important. It's making sure your community college system is relevant to the people that go there. So when they come in and they come out and it says Malcolm X or it says Harold Washington, HR doesn't close the door, but they open the door and say, sit down, we need to talk to you. And for years, Chicago's community college system, when the rest of the country was at a 25% graduation rate, ours was at 7. Meaning we were playing a game on people that relied on Malcolm X, Harold Washington, Kenny King, Olive Harvey, Wright, and Truman. Today, Rush Presbyterian's hiring about 100 nurses out of Malcolm X, because Malcolm X is relevant to their success. At Olive Harvey, UPS and FedEx can't wait long enough to have somebody graduate with a CDL. So not only is it a seed capital for NOF, which is essential for the businesses, it also means that you have an educational system that is relevant, so when people come and use our community colleges to get a ticket to the future, in a period of time where you earn what you learn, you have a community college system that is part of that economic success rather than a deterrent to that economic success. So again, I will not buy the politically convenient attack the Central Business District. But I will welcome everybody to sit around a table and figure out, okay, how do we make this work for everybody? What do we got to do? Because if that's growing, we want it to grow and have access to all parts of the city. Our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund has directly invested more than $11 million in neighborhoods and businesses primarily on the south and west side. More than 70% of those businesses are minority owned. And those resources have been leveraged to over $50 million in investments in neighborhoods, with more to come. And in the coming months, we will be doing another $10 million on top of the $11 million. Now, all the aldermen know this. When we first created this, we thought in the first year, if we hit $10 or $12 million, it was going to be a success. We are well on our way not only to passing that, but as continued to growth, it will help close to a couple hundred businesses across the city of Chicago. And what does that mean? Fewer boarded up storefronts and more help wanted signs in our neighborhoods. Fewer kids who see gates over empty buildings or storefronts, and more who see a future for their neighborhood and for themselves. And I cannot stress not only help wanted signs, not only a place where people are sitting having coffee and breakfast, but being run and managed and owned by men that look like them. So they can see themselves in years ahead. They too have a horizon. And if all they see, as I said earlier, is something boarded up, something closed, something cracked, we all know it as parents. That's what they internalize. They see a business thriving, growing, open at all hours, people there. Not only do they envision themselves differently, they know where they live counts. And that's really, in the end of the day, what we're talking about. Working neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, turning the tide against decades of disinvestment. In the neighborhoods that are coming up that will be expanding, from a new elementary school in Belmont Cragen neighborhood to the new Whitney Young Library in the Chatham neighborhood, to the new field in the Chatham community, West Chatham, from new parks and streetscapes in North Lawndale, to remodeled schools and ball fields in the South Shore community, to upgraded parks in Austin. This Sunday, we're going to break ground on the new Gately Park facility in the Pullman-Roseland community. Somebody call Conrad so he can get off my back. It will be the first indoor track in the city of Chicago. And what I'm also equally excited about, it will be the first partnership between the Chicago Park District and After School Matters outside of downtown, but on the south side of Chicago. Within a 5-mile radius are 167,000 youth who live there. In addition to that, on Sunday, on the near west side at Adams Medill Park, we'll be breaking ground there on a new facility. If you draw a 5-mile radius around that facility, there are 250,000 youth that live there, and you reach 36 of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. And that will bring to 4 of our student sports centers. Well, not only will kids be able to do track, basketball, any of those other activities, present there will be homework help and mentoring. We will work on our kids' bodies and their minds. In addition to those 4, there will be 2 more coming, one at Reed Dunning and another one at the Englewood High School. Those neighborhoods are not just a line on the map. Those neighborhoods are where people live there. They're the neighbors who shovel not just their own sidewalk, but their neighborhood sidewalk in the winter, who volunteer at neighborhood festivals in the summer, who take pride in their block, their neighborhood, and their city. That is why we are here today. This neighborhood is an example of what Chicago can accomplish when everyone works together, from City Hall to the city block. A few blocks from here is a community garden that grows fresh fruits and vegetables. It sits on one of the more than 1,200 lots that used to be vacant and abandoned. The city sold those lots to the residents for $1. 23 of them are right here in Bronzeville. It's a large lots program. Does the city run the program? Yes. Do we do it alone? Not by a long shot. And I encourage all of you to take a look at the largelots.org website. It's also helped with LISC and other groups, Boeing and the Knight Foundation. Public sector, private sector, residents, not-for-profit, marshaling their resources, working side by side to make a neighborhood a little bit better, a block, a place to live and raise a family. That is what the work is that we do is all about. Chicago's a great global city, but at the end of the day, we're a city of neighborhoods. Improving our neighborhoods is an ongoing process. Bronzeville exemplifies that. It takes a vision, it takes investment, commitment, and hard work by all of us. It takes a strong partnership among all the players, government, private sector, not-for-profits, volunteers, and the businesses that make up that neighborhood. I know we can do this because I know Chicago, and I know that you know Chicago, and you care about it. The seeds we're planting today, whether at a community garden up the road, or a new park or playground, a new CTA station, a new library, a new pre-K center, all of those seeds will strengthen and support our neighborhoods across Chicago. And when our neighborhoods are strong, and every one of them are strong, and when a child walks out the front door and they look at this city, whether that child is from Ravenswood or Roseland, Wildwood or Washington Park, if they look at that city, the image of us, our city to ourselves, and the image of Chicago to the world, and the child in Roseland, and the child in Ravenswood, and the child in Wildwood, and the child in Washington Park, or the child in Rogers Park, or the child in Roseland. They look at that city and they say, that's home, that's Chicago, that's where I live. London, Berlin, Beijing, watch out, Chicago's coming for you.